The Galactic Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant crystal palace. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in their designated seats. Today they were meeting to discuss something they considered trivial. Humanity wanted to join their council. Ambassador Kyle Morrison stood in the center of the chamber. He wore his best diplomatic uniform. Behind him stood Lieutenant Commander Amanda Price. She carried a datapad with information about humanity and their achievements. Both of them knew this would not be easy. The Vrel representative spoke first. It had 3 mouths that moved together in a disturbing way. You claim your species deserves to sit with us, but your technology is primitive compared to ours. Your people live such short lives. Your physical strength is nothing special. Why should we accept you? Kyle took a deep breath before answering. We may not match your individual strengths in every area, but humanity has survived ice ages and plagues. We survived wars that nearly destroyed our entire planet. We have colonized 12 star systems in just 30 years. We learn from our mistakes. We adapt to any situation. We endure when others would give up. The chamber erupted with sounds that could only be called laughter. Each species made different noises. The insectoid creche made clicking sounds. The massive Thordian delegate rumbled like thunder. Others hissed or chirped or made sounds humans had no words for. But the meaning was clear. They were mocking humanity. The Xalanth High Counselor leaned forward from her elevated seat. Her scaled face twisted into what looked like a smile. Every young species thinks they are special. You have no idea what true power means in this galaxy. The Korthax Dominion controls 300 star systems. The Vrel Collective has existed for 10,000 of your years. Your entire civilization is barely a blink of an eye in galactic time. What makes you think your brief existence matters to us? Amanda felt her jaw tighten. Her hand gripped the datapad harder. But she stayed silent. Kyle had instructed her not to speak unless absolutely necessary. Let them underestimate us, he had said. Let them think we are weak. Kyle kept his voice calm and steady. We do not claim to be the oldest civilization. We do not claim to control the most territory, but we ask that you do not underestimate what humanity can become. Our history has shown time and again that underestimating humans is a serious mistake. We came here in good faith. We came here seeking partnership and cooperation. More laughter echoed through the chamber. It seemed even louder this time. Some of the representatives were not even trying to hide their contempt. To them, humanity was like a child playing at being an adult. The High Counselor raised one clawed hand for silence. The laughter slowly died down. Your application for membership is denied. Return to your small corner of the galaxy. Perhaps in another 1,000 years you will have something of value to offer us. Perhaps by then you will understand how insignificant you truly are. This council session is now adjourned. Kyle bowed slightly. It was a gesture of respect, but his eyes showed no submission. Thank you for your time. We will remember this meeting. He turned and walked toward the exit with Amanda following close behind. As they left the chamber, Amanda finally spoke in a low voice. They have no idea what they just did. Kyle nodded slowly. No, they do not, and that will be their mistake. What neither the council nor the human delegates knew was that someone else had been watching the entire session. Hidden in the darkness of space, ships from the Krell swarm had observed everything. The Krell were a species that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. They were hunters and predators. They saw other species as either threats or food. The council had learned to avoid them through careful diplomacy and occasional tribute. The Krell had been looking for their next target. They wanted a species that was isolated, a species that the council would not defend, a species that seemed weak and unprepared. Humanity fit perfectly. The leader of the Krell scouting fleet watched the council session with great interest. Its multiple eyes focused on the human delegates. These humans are alone. The council rejected them. No one will come to their aid. They have colonies that are poorly defended. They have resources we can take. They have weak bodies that will break easily. Another Krell warrior clicked its mandibles in agreement. The council's rejection is our opportunity. We strike their weakest colony first. We show them what it means to face the swarm. We teach them fear. The Krell commander made its decision. Prepare the fleet. We attack in 3 days. Target their agricultural world, the one they call New Virginia. It has millions of soft targets and minimal military presence. It will fall quickly. Then we will see if these humans are truly as resilient as they claim. 3 days later, Kyle and Amanda were back on Earth making their report to the government. They explained how the council had dismissed humanity without serious consideration. They talked about the insults and the laughter. Amanda was angry, but Kyle seemed strangely calm. "What do we do now?" Amanda asked. "Do we try again in a few years? Do we build up our military first? Do we focus on expanding our territory?" Kyle looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. "We continue growing. We continue exploring. We continue being human. The council will either recognize us eventually or they will become irrelevant. Either way, humanity will survive." His communication device suddenly beeped with an urgent priority signal. Kyle answered it immediately. The face that appeared on the screen was pale with fear. "Ambassador Morrison, this is Colonial Defense Command. We have a situation. New Virginia is under attack. Unknown hostile forces have entered the system. They are bombing the surface. We are receiving distress calls from multiple cities." Kyle felt his blood turn cold. "How many hostiles?" "Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. They match the profile of Krell swarm vessels. Sir, the colony defenses are being overwhelmed. We need to send reinforcements immediately." Amanda pulled up tactical data on her datapad. Her hands were shaking. "New Virginia has 3 million colonists. Most of them are civilians, farmers and their families. They have a small militia, but nothing that can stand against a full Krell assault." Kyle was already moving toward the door. "Contact Fleet Command. Tell them to mobilize every ship we have. Tell them to prepare for total war. And send a message to every human colony and outpost. Tell them the Krell have attacked us. Tell them we are going to respond with everything we have." "What about the Galactic Council?" Amanda asked. "Should we request their aid?" Kyle stopped at the door and looked back at her. His expression was hard as stone. "The Council made their position clear. They think we are weak and insignificant. Let us show them what happens when you dismiss humanity. Let us show them all what we really are." New Virginia was known throughout human space as the breadbasket colony. It had endless fields of golden wheat and vast farms that produced food for 6 other colonies. The planet had been terraformed carefully over 20 years. Now it was home to 3 million people. Most of them were farmers who had left Earth seeking a simpler life among the stars. Captain Frank Cooper was having breakfast with his 8-year-old daughter, Lisa, when the sky began to change. He was a reserve officer in the colonial militia, but he had not expected to ever need those skills. New Virginia was peaceful. It was safe, or so everyone had believed. Lisa looked up from her cereal and pointed at the window. "Dad, why is the sky turning black?" Frank stood up quickly and looked outside. His heart dropped into his stomach. The morning sky was filled with ships. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. They had organic-looking hulls that pulsed with strange bioluminescent light. He had seen intelligence reports about these vessels. Every human military officer had been briefed about them. These were Krell swarm ships. "Lisa, listen to me very carefully," Frank said in the calmest voice he could manage. "I need you to go down to the basement right now. Do not stop for anything. Do not try to take anything with you. Just run." "But Dad..." "Now, Lisa, run." As his daughter ran toward the basement stairs, Frank pulled out his emergency communicator. His hands were steady despite the fear coursing through him. Years of training took over. "This is Captain Frank Cooper to Colonial Defense Command. We have incoming hostile forces, multiple Krell vessels entering atmosphere. All civilians need to reach the emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." The Krell ships opened fire without any warning. They sent no messages demanding surrender. They made no threats or demands. They simply began destroying everything below them. Plasma bolts rained down on the cities like burning rain. Organic pods crashed into the wheat fields and split open. From those pods emerged creatures that looked like nightmares made real. The Krell warriors stood on 6 legs. Each one had razor-sharp claws that could cut through steel. Their bodies were covered in thick armor plating. Their blood was acidic enough to melt through concrete. They moved with terrifying speed and worked together like a swarm of insects. They had one purpose: kill everything human. The colonial militia responded as fast as they could. Private Jake Henderson was manning a heavy plasma turret on the edge of Richmond, the capital city. He was 22 years old and had joined the militia because it paid well. He never thought he would actually have to fight. Now he watched in horror as Krell warriors tore through a defensive line 2 kilometers away. The screams came through his radio. "They are so fast," said Corporal Linda Hayes. She was loading ammunition into the turret with shaking hands. "How are they so fast?" Jake forced himself to focus. "Then we do not miss. Help me aim this thing." The battle for New Virginia lasted 6 terrible hours. The colonial militia was outnumbered and outmatched. For every human soldier, there were 10 Krell warriors. The humans had better weapons, but the Krell had numbers and ferocity. They also had no fear. They would throw themselves at human defenses until something broke. Captain Frank Cooper led the defense of the main civilian shelter in Richmond. He had 12 Marines with him. They held a narrow corridor that was the only way into the shelter. Behind them were 2,000 civilians, including his daughter. He could not let the Krell through. Wave after wave of Krell warriors came at them. The Marines fired until their weapons overheated. They reloaded and fired again. The corridor was filled with dead Krell bodies, but more kept coming. The air smelled like burning flesh and acid. Frank's rifle clicked empty. He had no more ammunition. He drew his sidearm and kept firing. When that ran out of bullets, he pulled out his combat knife. A Krell warrior charged at him and he stabbed it in what he hoped was a vital spot. The creature screamed and fell. Another took its place. When his knife was knocked from his hand, Frank used his fists. He punched and kicked and grabbed anything he could use as a weapon. A piece of broken pipe became a club. A shard of metal became a blade. He fought like a man possessed. He fought like a cornered animal. He fought like a human with nothing left to lose. 4 Krell warriors finally brought him down. They held him as he kept struggling. Even then he tried to fight. His last words were transmitted across every human military channel in the sector. "Tell them we do not break easy. Tell them humanity remembers. Tell them we are coming for them." Private Jake Henderson heard those words as he fired his turret at the approaching swarm. Tears ran down his face, but his hands never stopped working. Beside him, Linda kept loading ammunition even though her arm was bleeding from a Krell claw wound. They knew they were going to die. But they would die fighting. When human reinforcements finally arrived from Earth, they found New Virginia in ruins. Richmond was burning. The wheat fields were destroyed. 2 million colonists were confirmed dead. Another million were missing and presumed dead. It was the worst disaster in human history since the colony wars a century ago. But the Krell had paid a price too. For every human killed, 3 Krell warriors lay dead in the ruins. The colonists and militia had fought with a ferocity that surprised the Krell. Humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to break easily. But they had fought to the last bullet and beyond. Admiral Richard Stone arrived with the relief fleet. He was a career military officer with 40 years of experience. He had fought pirates and rebels. He had seen combat on a dozen worlds, but nothing prepared him for the sight of New Virginia. He stood in the ruins of Richmond and looked at the bodies of both humans and Krell. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were filled with cold fury. Commander Patricia Mills stood beside him. She was his second in command and had known him for 15 years. She had never seen him look like this. "Sir, what are your orders?" Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Commander Mills, send a message to every human world. Send it to every ship. Send it to every outpost and colony. Tell them we are going to war. Tell them this is not about defense anymore. This is about revenge. This is about showing the galaxy what happens when you attack humanity. Sir, the Krell swarm is massive. They control dozens of systems. They have been terrorizing the galaxy for centuries. We are just one species." "Then we will be the one species that finally stops them," Stone said. "Prepare the fleet. Find every Krell world. Find every Krell outpost. Find every Krell ship. And then burn them all. We are going to erase the Krell from existence. We are going to make them regret that they ever heard the word human." Commander Mills saluted. "Yes, sir." "Should we contact the Galactic Council? Request their assistance?" Admiral Stone's laugh was bitter. "The Council laughed at us. They dismissed us. They thought we were weak and insignificant. Let them watch what the weak can do when pushed too far. Let them watch and learn to fear us." The news of New Virginia spread across human space like wildfire. Every colony held memorial services. Every ship flew flags at half-mast. But more importantly, every human prepared for war. The shipyards of Mars and Europa and Titan began working 24 hours a day. They built new warships with one purpose: destroy the Krell. Young men and women enlisted in numbers that overwhelmed the recruitment offices. Everyone wanted to fight. Everyone wanted revenge. The few voices calling for restraint and diplomacy were drowned out by the calls for blood. Humanity had been dismissed as weak. They had been laughed at. They had been attacked. Now they would show the galaxy what humans really were. They would show what happened when you pushed a species with nothing left to lose. The human response to the New Virginia massacre was swift and overwhelming. Within 2 weeks, the Colonial Defense Fleet had mobilized every warship capable of flight. The shipyards worked without stopping, producing new vessels at a rate that shocked even human military planners. These new ships were different from the exploration and defense vessels humans had built before. These ships were built for one purpose only: war. Admiral Richard Stone commanded the fleet from the UES Vengeance, a massive dreadnought that had been completed in record time. The ship bristled with weapons. Its armor was reinforced with materials that had never been tested in real combat. Its engines could push it faster than any human ship before. Everything about it screamed aggression. Lieutenant Greg Martinez served as Stone's tactical officer. He monitored the fleet status on multiple screens. "Sir, we have 417 ships ready for deployment. This is the largest human fleet ever assembled. The Krell have never faced anything like this from a single species." "Then they are about to receive an education," Stone replied. His voice was calm, but there was ice beneath it. "Plot a course for Theta Proxima. Intelligence reports that it is a major Krell staging ground. We are going to hit them where it hurts most." Commander Patricia Mills approached with a datapad. "Admiral, our intelligence confirms that the Krell swarm operates from a network of breeding worlds. These worlds are where they raise their young and produce new warriors. They have never lost a single breeding world in their entire history. They believe these worlds are untouchable." Stone's smile was cold and terrible. "Beliefs can be corrected. Prepare the Scorched Earth protocols." Mills hesitated. She had read the protocols. They were designed for situations where humanity faced extinction. They were meant to be a last resort. "Sir, those protocols are extreme. They violate every convention of warfare. They target entire populations." "The Krell burned New Virginia," Stone said quietly. "They killed 2 million of our people. They hunted our colonists like animals. Now we will show them what real hunting looks like. Execute the protocols." The first battle of Theta Proxima would be studied in military academies for generations to come. It would be taught as an example of total warfare. It would be used to show what happens when a species decides that mercy is a luxury it cannot afford. The Krell expected the humans to be cautious. They expected probing attacks and careful reconnaissance. They expected a species that was still learning the rules of galactic warfare. What they got was something completely different. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. There was no communication. There was no demand for surrender. There was no warning. The humans simply opened fire with every weapon they had. Missiles and plasma bolts and kinetic rounds filled the space around Theta Proxima. The Krell orbital defenses barely had time to sound alarms before they were destroyed. Lieutenant Commander Susan Blake piloted her fighter through the chaos. She led Gold Squadron, 12 of the best pilots in the fleet. Behind her, the other fighters followed in tight formation. "Gold Squadron, target those carrier organisms. Do not let them launch any more warriors." The space battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. The Krell fought with their usual ferocity. They had numbers and experience. But the humans fought with something the Krell had never encountered before. Desperation mixed with rage. Grief turned into fury. Every human pilot and crew member had seen the images from New Virginia. Every one of them had lost someone they knew. Human ships took heavy casualties. The Krell weapons were powerful and accurate. But for every human ship that fell, 2 more seemed to take its place. The human pilots flew with a recklessness that bordered on suicidal. They rammed Krell ships when they ran out of ammunition. They used their damaged vessels as weapons. They showed no fear and gave no quarter. Captain Larry Foster commanded the destroyer Fury. His ship had taken critical damage and his main weapons were offline. He could have retreated. He could have tried to repair his ship. Instead, he aimed his vessel directly at a Krell capital ship. "This is Foster to all hands. Abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship. You have 30 seconds to reach the escape pods." His crew protested but followed orders. Foster stayed on the bridge alone. He pushed the engines to maximum. As his ship accelerated toward the Krell vessel, he opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. "For New Virginia. For humanity. For everyone we lost." The Fury's reactor core detonated on impact. The explosion destroyed both ships and damaged 3 others nearby. Foster's sacrifice was not unique. Across the battlefield, other human commanders made similar choices. They turned their dying ships into weapons. They showed the Krell that humans would not stop fighting until they won or died. After 3 hours of brutal combat, the Krell orbital defenses were destroyed. The space around Theta Proxima was filled with debris from both sides. But the humans had won. They controlled the space above the breeding world. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and looked at the planet below. It was a green and blue world similar to Earth. Billions of Krell larvae lived on that planet, the next generation of warriors. The future of the swarm. "Deploy the atmospheric incinerators," Stone ordered. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Atmospheric incinerators were banned weapons. They caused planet-wide fires that could not be extinguished. They turned entire atmospheres into burning death. They were meant for destroying worlds, not conquering them. "Sir?" someone said quietly. "That is genocide." Stone turned to face his crew. "The Krell came to New Virginia to exterminate us. They killed our children. They burned our homes. They laughed while they hunted us. Now we will show them what extermination really means. Deploy the weapons." The incinerators launched from multiple ships. They entered the atmosphere and spread across the planet. Within minutes, the fires began. Within an hour, the entire planet was burning. The atmosphere itself became a weapon. There was no escape. There was no shelter. Everything on Theta Proxima died in the flames. Admiral Stone recorded a message and broadcast it on all frequencies. He wanted every species in the galaxy to hear it. He wanted the Galactic Council to understand what they had unleashed. "This is Admiral Richard Stone of the Human Colonial Defense Fleet. This message is for the Krell swarm and anyone who considers humanity to be prey. You attacked our colony. You killed our people. You believed we were weak. You were wrong. We have destroyed the Krell breeding world of Theta Proxima. Every Krell on that planet is dead. This is not a negotiation. This is not a warning. This is a promise. We will find every Krell world. We will destroy every Krell ship. We will hunt every Krell warrior until your species is nothing but a memory. You wanted to see human strength. Now you see it. Now everyone sees it." The message reached the Galactic Council within hours. The representatives gathered in emergency session. They watched the footage of Theta Proxima burning. They watched the recordings of the battle. They saw what humans were capable of when pushed beyond their limits. The Xalanth High Counselor stared at the holographic display in disbelief. They destroyed an entire world. Complete extinction-level event. "The Krell are calling for our assistance. They want us to intervene." Her aide pulled up the casualty reports. The humans lost 97 ships in the battle. The Krell lost 3 times that number, and the breeding world held approximately 5 billion Krell larvae. "All dead. What have we done?" someone whispered. The High Counselor remembered the day she had laughed at the human ambassador. She remembered dismissing them as weak and insignificant. She remembered thinking they were just another young species that would learn their place in time. Now that young species had just committed an act of warfare that shocked the galaxy. "The humans are not asking for our permission," she said quietly. "They are not following our rules. They are fighting a war of extermination, and from what I can see, they are winning." The war between humanity and the Krell swarm became the most talked about event in galactic history. What had begun as a seemingly one-sided massacre had transformed into something the ancient species had never witnessed. A young species was not just defending itself. It was winning decisively against an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. The Galactic Council called another emergency session. Ambassador Kyle Morrison returned to the chamber, but this time, the atmosphere was completely different. The representatives who had laughed at him months ago now watched him with caution and fear. Some would not even meet his eyes. Kyle stood in the same spot where he had been humiliated. Amanda Price stood beside him. Both of them wore their dress uniforms. Both of them carried themselves with quiet confidence. They were not here to beg anymore. They were here to deliver a message. The Xalanth High Counselor spoke first. Her voice was careful and measured. "Ambassador Morrison, the Council is deeply concerned about the escalating conflict with the Krell swarm. The destruction of 3 breeding worlds is unprecedented. The scale of devastation your species has unleashed violates numerous galactic conventions regarding warfare." Kyle waited a moment before responding. When he spoke, his voice was polite, but there was steel beneath every word. "Conventions. You speak of conventions that you never invited us to sign. Conventions that did not protect New Virginia when it was attacked. Conventions that apparently allow the Krell to exterminate entire colonies without consequence. Tell me, High Counselor, which convention covers that? A Vrel representative tried to interject. The complete destruction of populated worlds goes beyond acceptable warfare. You are committing acts that could be considered genocide. The Council cannot ignore such actions. Amanda spoke up for the first time. Her voice cut through the chamber like a blade. You ignored the genocide of 2 million humans on New Virginia. You ignored the Krell attacks on dozens of other species. You have tolerated the Krell swarm for centuries because fighting them was too costly for you. Do not lecture us about morality when you have none. The chamber fell silent. No one had ever spoken to the Council like this. Young species were supposed to be respectful and submissive. They were supposed to accept their place in the galactic order. But humanity was not following the script. Kyle continued speaking. The Krell swarm has been a plague on this galaxy for longer than most of you want to admit. How many smaller species have they destroyed? How many worlds have they stripped of all life? And what did the mighty Galactic Council do? You negotiated with them. You paid them tribute. You allowed them to exist because the alternative was too difficult. You chose convenience over justice. The High Counselor's scales darkened with anger or embarrassment. You speak of things beyond your understanding. The Krell cannot be eliminated. They are too numerous. They are too spread across the galaxy. They are too resilient. Fighting them to extinction would cost millions of lives. They could not be eliminated, Kyle corrected her. Past tense. Because you see, humanity has discovered something interesting. When you push us far enough, when you take from us the things we love, we become something else entirely. We become relentless. We become unstoppable. We become the very thing that nightmares fear. Amanda activated a holographic display. Images filled the center of the chamber. Footage of human fleets striking deep into Krell territory. Recordings of boarding parties fighting through Krell hive ships in brutal close combat. Tactical maps showing Krell armadas broken and scattered across a dozen systems. This is what total war looks like, Amanda explained. No half measures. No acceptable losses, no mercy. The Krell wanted to hunt humanity. They wanted to make examples of us. Instead, we have become the hunters. We have shown them what it means to be prey. In another part of the galaxy, Captain Patricia Mills led her task force toward the Krell home cluster. She had been promoted after her actions at Theta Proxima. Now she commanded 80 ships, including the newly commissioned UES Retribution. Her mission was simple: find the Krell command structure and destroy it completely. All ships, this is Mills, she broadcast to her fleet. We are approaching the Krell home cluster. Intelligence indicates their central command is located in the largest hive complex. Our orders are to neutralize it. The Krell made an example of New Virginia. Today we return the favor. All ships, battle stations. The Krell threw everything they had at the incoming human fleet. Bioships that could regenerate from damage. Swarm fighters that attacked in groups of thousands. Living mines that hunted their targets through space. Weapons that dissolved armor with acid. Creatures bred specifically for war. Lieutenant Commander Harry Chen commanded a destroyer escort named Guardian. His ship found itself surrounded by Krell fighters. They came from all directions like a swarm of angry insects. His crew looked to him for orders. All power to forward shields, Harry said calmly. Navigation, set course directly for that hive ship. Maximum speed. His helmsman turned to look at him. Sir, that is suicide. We will never survive getting that close. Harry smiled grimly. The Krell committed suicide when they attacked New Virginia. This is just us delivering the consequences. All hands brace for impact. The Guardian plowed through the swarm of fighters. Its hull took massive damage. Armor plates peeled away. Weapons were destroyed. Fires broke out on multiple decks. But the ship never stopped moving forward. It never stopped firing its remaining weapons. When it finally crashed into the massive hive ship, the resulting explosion destroyed both vessels and 17 other Krell ships nearby. Harry's sacrifice was one of many. Across the battlefield, human commanders made similar decisions. They used their ships as weapons when ammunition ran out. They rammed enemy vessels. They detonated their own reactors. They showed the Krell that every human ship was potentially a bomb waiting to explode. Captain Mills watched the tactical display as her forces systematically destroyed the Krell defenses. The Krell were breaking. Their formations were collapsing. Their ships were fleeing. For the first time in their long history, the Krell swarm was experiencing fear. All ships pursue and destroy, Mills ordered. No survivors, no mercy. Let them know what it feels like to be hunted. The battle for the Krell home cluster lasted 2 days. When it was over, the Krell command structure was destroyed. Their breeding facilities were burning. Their fleet was scattered. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia was broken. Admiral Stone recorded another message. This one was broadcast across every known communication channel. He wanted everyone to hear it. Every species, every government, every individual being in the galaxy. This is Admiral Richard Stone. 6 months ago, humanity asked the Galactic Council for recognition and partnership. We asked only to be treated with respect. We asked only to be left in peace to grow and develop. The Council laughed at us. They dismissed us as weak and insignificant. When the Krell swarm attacked us, the Council did nothing. They watched as 2 million humans died. They offered no aid. They showed no concern. They believed we would be destroyed or that we would beg for their help. They were wrong on both counts. The Krell swarm is broken. Their empire is ash. Their warriors are dead or scattered. We did what the Council could not or would not do. We eliminated a threat that has plagued this galaxy for centuries, and we did it alone. Let this be a lesson to every species watching. Humanity does not start fights, but we finish them. We do not seek war, but when war comes to us, we wage it with everything we have. The Council dismissed us as prey. The Krell tried to hunt us. Now they both know the truth. Humans are not prey. We are predators, and we protect our own. Back in the Council chamber, the representatives sat in stunned silence. The recording ended and no one spoke for a long time. The implications were clear. A species they had dismissed months ago had just reshaped galactic politics through sheer force of will and firepower. Kyle Morrison gathered his materials. We are done here. Humanity has no further business with this council. Wait, the High Counselor said. We wish to reconsider your application for membership. We can offer you a seat on the council. Full membership with all rights and privileges. Kyle stopped and turned back. You laugh at us when we ask politely. Now you offer membership when you fear us. That tells me everything I need to know about this council. 6 months after the fall of the Krell home cluster, the galaxy was fundamentally changed. The Krell swarm no longer existed. Every breeding world had been found and sterilized. Every hive ship had been hunted down and destroyed. Every warrior had been killed or had died from lack of resources. Humanity had not just won the war, they had erased the Krell from existence completely. Admiral Richard Stone stood on the observation deck of the UES Vengeance looking at Earth. The blue planet seemed peaceful from orbit. But Stone knew the truth. Earth and all of humanity had changed. War always changed people. This war had transformed an entire species. Captain Patricia Mills joined him carrying 2 glasses of whiskey. She handed one to Stone without saying anything. They both knew what the drink was for. To the fallen, Mills said quietly. To the fallen, Stone echoed. They clinked their glasses together and drank. They stood in silence for several minutes before Mills spoke again. The Galactic Council has sent another message. They are offering humanity full membership, immediate elevation to the Security Council. They are calling it recognition of our contributions to galactic safety. Stone made a sound that was almost a laugh. Contributions. They mean they are afraid of us now. 6 months ago they laughed and dismissed us. Now they want us in their council because they fear what we might do next. What will you tell them? That is not my decision, Stone said. I am a military officer. Politics is for the diplomats. But if anyone asks my opinion, I will tell them the truth. We do not need the council. Not anymore. On Earth, Ambassador Kyle Morrison met with President Laura Bennett. The president had been a colonial governor before being elected. She had seen firsthand what the Krell attack had done to human colonies. She understood the cost of war better than most politicians. Ambassador, the council is demanding an answer about membership, President Bennett said. She looked tired. Leading humanity through a war of extermination had aged her visibly. Kyle sat across from her desk. They are afraid of us now. 6 months ago we were a joke to them. Now we are a threat they need to control. That is what the membership offer really is. An attempt to bring us under their authority. Are they right to fear us? Kyle thought about the question carefully. Madam President, we lost 2 million people on New Virginia. We lost another 100,000 in the war. Thousands of ships were destroyed. Entire families were wiped out. We paid a terrible price. The question is not whether the Council should fear us. The question is whether we want to be part of a system that only respects violence and strength. Commander Amanda Price entered the office with urgent news. Sir, Madam President, we have received a transmission from the frontier. You need to see this immediately. The holographic display activated. Commander Pete Russell appeared. He commanded the exploration vessel UES Pioneer. His face was grim and angry. Earth Command, we have discovered 3 pre-faster-than-light civilizations in the Outer Rim sectors. All 3 are being raided by the Vorkesh clans. The Vorkesh are taking slaves and resources. They are attacking defenseless populations. We have confirmed that the Galactic Council knows about these raids. They consider it an internal regional matter and refuse to intervene. President Bennett leaned forward. The Council is allowing this to happen? Amanda pulled up additional intelligence reports. Not just allowing it. Several Council member species buy slaves from the Vorkesh. It is an open secret. The Council turns a blind eye because it is profitable for some of their members. Kyle looked at the President. This is the organization that wants us to join. This is the system they want us to be part of. They lecture us about our methods while they profit from slavery and ignore genocide. President Bennett stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the memorial for New Virginia. 2 million names carved in black stone. A reminder of what happened when humanity showed weakness. A reminder of the cost of trusting others to protect them. Ambassador Morrison, send our response to the Galactic Council. Humanity declines membership at this time. However, we are announcing the formation of a new alliance, the Frontier Protection Coalition. Any species that wants to join us in protecting innocent civilizations is welcome. Membership is not based on age or technology. It is based on commitment to defending those who cannot defend themselves. She turned back to face them. Her expression was hard and determined. And send a message to the Vorkesh raiding clans. Tell them that humanity is aware of their activities. Tell them to release all slaves and cease all attacks on defenseless worlds. Tell them they have 1 week to comply. Kyle allowed himself a small smile. And if they refuse? Then they learn the same lesson the Krell learned. You do not prey on the weak when humanity is watching. 3 weeks later, Admiral Stone led a fleet into Vorkesh space. The U.S. Vengeance was accompanied by 200 warships. They broadcast on all frequencies as they entered the system. This is Admiral Richard Stone of the Human Frontier Fleet. We are here for the slaves you have taken. We are here for the worlds you have raided. We are here for the people you have terrorized. You have 1 hour to surrender all slaves and cease all hostile operations. If you comply, you will be allowed to retreat. If you refuse, we will destroy you completely. Choose wisely. The Vorkesh had existed for centuries. They were confident in their strength. They had raided weaker species for generations without serious opposition. The Council had never seriously challenged them. They believed humans were just another species making empty threats. They chose to fight. The war against the Vorkesh clans lasted 3 days. It was not even close to a fair fight. The Vorkesh had numbers and fortifications, but humans had experience from fighting the Krell. They had weapons designed for total warfare. Most importantly, they had absolute commitment to their mission. The Vorkesh discovered what the Krell had learned too late. Humans did not make empty threats. When humans said they would destroy you, they meant it completely and literally. Every Vorkesh raiding base was found and obliterated. Every slave ship was boarded and the slaves freed. Every Vorkesh clan leader was captured or killed. The species that had terrorized the frontier for generations was broken in 72 hours. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, representatives watched the reports in growing horror. The Xalanth High Counselor watched footage of human marines freeing slaves from Vorkesh ships. She watched human engineers helping rebuild damaged colonies. She watched human diplomats offering protection to species that had been ignored by the Council. They are not asking our permission, she said to her aide. They are not following our protocols. They are creating their own system, their own rules. And species are joining them. What do we do? Her aide asked. The High Counselor thought about the day she had laughed at the human ambassador. She remembered thinking humanity was insignificant. She remembered dismissing them as weak and primitive. Now that weak species was reshaping the galaxy without Council approval, we learn humility, she said quietly. And we hope that humanity is more forgiving than we deserve. Over the following years, the Frontier Protection Coalition grew rapidly. 27 species joined, most of them younger races that had been overlooked by the established powers. The Galactic Council found itself increasingly irrelevant as humanity and its allies created new trade agreements, new security arrangements, and new rules for interaction. Admiral Stone eventually retired after 5 years of service. Captain Mills took his place as fleet commander. Ambassador Morrison continued serving, but now he negotiated from a position of strength. Humanity was no longer asking for permission or recognition. They were leading. On New Virginia, the colony was rebuilt from ruins. Richmond rose again, larger and stronger than before. In the center of the city, a monument was erected. It showed Captain Frank Cooper in his final stand, knife in hand, facing down Krell warriors. The inscription was simple but powerful. They thought we were weak. They thought we would break. They thought wrong. Remember New Virginia. Remember that humanity endures. The monument became a pilgrimage site. Humans from across the colonies came to pay their respects, but visitors from other species came too. They came to understand what humanity had become. They came to see the moment that changed everything. The Galactic Council never recovered its former authority. More and more species left to join the Frontier Protection Coalition. The council members who had laughed at humanity now found themselves isolated and diminished. Some tried to rebuild relationships with humanity. Others refused out of pride. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Age did not determine strength. Technology did not determine courage. Size did not determine will. When a species was pushed too far, when everything they loved was threatened, they could become something terrifying. Humanity had proven themselves not through diplomacy or ancient heritage, but through sheer determination. They had faced extinction and responded with total warfare. They had taken the worst the galaxy could throw at them and emerged stronger. The species that had laughed at humanity would never make that mistake again. Every diplomat, every military commander, every leader in the galaxy now knew one simple truth. Humans did not start fights easily.